Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with an absolutely miserable cold, which is why my voice is wrecked. But having a wrecked voice actually is appropriate for this talk because I'm going to be discussing Herbert von Karajan's complete Decca recordings. And anybody who heard Herbert von Karajan talk knows he sounded something like this. Only auf Deutsch, which makes it even screechier and more grinding. So I hope you can put up with it, and we can talk about some music instead. Now, Decca was the label for which Karajan made his fewest recordings, at least compared to EMI and Deutsche Grammophon. But the quality of those recordings may be the highest in aggregate. This cube consists of this previous release, which is all the Decca orchestral stuff, plus his operas, the vocal things that he did for that label. And so if you have this, you may not want this, because you probably have a couple of the operas anyway, the Puccini stuff particularly, maybe Boris Godunov, but we'll go through it. And, this won't take very long because these are very familiar recordings, but some of them are absolutely magnificent and worth considering. So let's see what's in here. I can just look at the back of the cover. This is one of those be careful how you pick it up because you can't pick it up by the top of the cube things or else it's going to open up and spill all over the place. Very irritating. Very, very irritating. I don't like this kind of packaging at all, but, that's a whole nother issue. Okay, so let's see what we have here. In the orchestral department, we have Richard Strauss. You have, Also Sprach Zarathustra, Don Juan, Death and Transfiguration, Till Eulenspiegel, and the Dance of the Seven Veils. Now, the Zarathustra was the performance used in 2001: A Space Odyssey. And as we all know, at the time it was recorded, Vienna did not have a usable organ, and that was a problem. So, Karajan really did better with his first Berlin Also Sprach Zarathustra, but all the other Strauss pieces are marvelous. They really are. Karajan was a great Strauss conductor. It's the Vienna Philharmonic. What's not to like? Then we have, Beethoven's 7th and Brahms' 1st. Karajan made these pieces a million times. The advantage to hearing these particular versions is that it's the Vienna Philharmonic and not Berlin. In other words, it's more of a collaboration between Karajan and the orchestra because he could not fully impose his timbral ideals on the Vienna Philharmonic in the way he did Berlin, which means occasionally we get to hear woodwinds. So, for example, maybe the horns are a little more prominent. There's more textural interest than in that very, very string-heavy homogenized sound that Karajan got in Berlin, particularly when doing the German repertoire, and particularly in Beethoven's 7th. His performance was always very exciting, except it had no horns. It's like, what's the point, right? So that was really good. And then we have, Mozart and Haydn. The Mozart 40 and 41, and Haydn drum roll and London symphonies. This is typical big band Haydn and Mozart without a lot of specific character or personality, at least in my opinion. I never listen to these performances. They're good. They're okay. No one's going to, complain. But you could do better. And of course, since the period instrument people popped up and the period instrument idea, the aesthetic has permeated our musical life, including modern instruments, most people would prefer to hear the music done that way, and with good reason, because it often sounds better. The Vienna of Johann Strauss. It's Johann Strauss. It's Vienna. Next, the Planets, with Grieg music from Peer Gynt, one of the great performances of the Planets in the history of mankind, and fabulously well recorded. You have to have Karajan's Vienna Planets. It's extraordinary. And the Grieg is always lovely, and Karajan did it a few times too, and he did it very well. Tchaikovsky, Romeo and Juliet and Ballet Suites, also very good. Karajan was always a marvelous Tchaikovsky conductor. Adolphe Adam, Giselle music. That wasn't something Karajan was going to do every 5 minutes, and it's lots of fun. So that was interesting. And what else have we got here? Brahms, Tragic Overture, Symphony No. 3. Karajan always did a good Brahms third. He was one of the few conductors out there who did Brahms cycles and didn't blow the third. It was very, very good. And the Dvorak 8th is stunning. one of the great Dvorak eighths, unquestionably. So that's the orchestral music, and as you can tell, a lot of it is really superb. And there aren't any obvious duds in the bunch. There just aren't. It's all at a very, very high level and very consistent. So if you don't have the little box, which I have here, this little thing, and you want the big box for the operas, and here they come, worth getting. Okay, first, Christmas with Leontyne Price. A great Christmas album with a great singer. What's not to love? The Verdi Aida with Renata Tebaldi. It's a classic Aida. Absolutely wonderful. One of Tebaldi's great roles. Beautiful. Strauss, Die Fledermaus. Oh, Die Fledermaus. This was the Die Fledermaus to get before Carlos Kleiber came along. And it really still is, not just for the operetta, but because of the gala that's included with Birgit Nilsson singing I Could Have Danced All Night. I mean, if that isn't worth the price of the ticket, I don't know what is. Let's see, Verdi's Otello. Oh, Karajan's Otello was always a little bit weird. This is probably the better of his two. Let me see who was singing. Oh, yeah, Mario Del Monaco and Renata Tebaldi with Aldo Prodi as Iago. Ugh. I mean, Prodi was okay, there are better Otellos, but it's not terrible. The Leontyne Price, Di Stefano Tosca. I think that's what this one is, right? Yes. Price and Di Stefano, a great Tosca, famous Tosca. Price was one of her great roles. Di Stefano is in really good voice. It's fine. And then we have Carmen with Leontyne Price. Now, this Carmen was a little controversial. It's with Franco Corelli and Leontyne Price. Franco Corelli singing in French was always kind of, but who cares? His voice is incredible. But really, the thing that got me about this Carmen when it first came out, I'll never forget reading about it in the Penguin Guide. This was such a British critic moment. They were saying, disapprovingly, mind you, that if you want a Carmen who's a sexual threat, then you might want this Carmen. Well, duh. I mean, what is Carmen unless she's a sexual threat? Why don't you want a Carmen who's a sexual threat? I mean, you do not want Carmen in a convent. Carmen is a sexual threat. And it's so typical of the completely sexless, passionless British critic approach to music that they dislike the fact that it has some sex and some threatening aspect to it. Unbelievable how stupid that stuff is. And I'm not, mind you, don't get me wrong, I'm complaining about British criticism, not British people or British life or British existence. It's a function of a particular class of critic that permeated the British musical establishment since the dawn of time, but probably, particularly was evident in gramophone, and those guys all wrote for gramophone, and they hated sex. Ooh, we can't have sex. Sex is bad. Even in Carmen, even in French music, which is about sex if it's about anything. Oh, God. Anyway, Mussorgsky. This is the greatest performance of the Rimsky-Korsakov version of Boris Godunov. You've got Nikolai Gyarov, and Galina Vishnevskaya, and it's just fantastic. And, the Vienna Philharmonic, and it's marvelous. And you've got La Bohème. This is with the Berlin Philharmonic, one of their few Deccas. And let's see, it's Morella Freni and Pavarotti, and I mean, you know who all these people are. The same thing with the Madame Butterfly, which is stunning. Boy, is it great. And it has the best tam-tam pop when Butterfly stabs herself that you've ever heard in your life. I mean, if you are going to commit seppuku or harikari or whatever they call it, like this, you want that tam-tam to go off when you do it. And if you can't have that tam-tam, then I suggest you find some other way to off yourself, really. And then there's finally this Marriage of Figaro with, let's see, Tom Krause, Anna Tomova-Sintov, Ilyana Kotrubas, Jose Van Dam, Federico von Stade. This was never anybody's favorite Figaro. I mean, Karajan and Mozart, he was on again, off again. His best recording is that early mono Così fan tutti. That's his best Mozart opera recording. Everything else had its iffier moments because his feeling for sonority did not really accord with Mozart's, because Mozart was a woodwind color guy and Karajan was a string guy. So, and the singing, he tended to overwhelm his singers, and there's so many great Figaros out there. But again, it's not terrible. And that, my friends, very simple, plain and simple, is the Karajan Decca box. To be honest, I think this is a terrific box on the whole. There's nothing, and my cat is yelling at me. There's nothing that's terrible, and a lot that's absolutely fabulous. So it's definitely worth getting. And now I have to go feed the cat. So keep on listening, folks. Thank you for joining me. Take care.